Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast, where we explore your hidden thoughts and desires, revealing your greatest drop the soap moment. The need to have closure in any given situation is sheer human nature. And when it comes to romantic relationships, this desire skyrockets. Has your previously failed relationship left you in immense pain? It's not uncommon for people to shy away from a new relationship after their first one fails miserably. The fear of the unknown makes them hide in a shell to prevent any future heartbreak. Relatable? Despite wanting to love and be loved, you can't take the plunge if your mind and heart are still locked somewhere in the past. Maybe you aren't aware of the power of releasing the past, or perhaps you don't know how to do it. Art Costello in his online course teaches the art of moving on from bad places to happier, more stable ones. This course can change your life for good, helping you beat all kinds of negativity on the road to eternal bliss. Sign up now before the gloominess gets the better of you at expectationacademy.com. Now here's your host, Art Costello.
Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast. Today my guest is Phoebe Mroczek. She's a personal coach, podcaster, and marketing strategist. She's also the host of Unbecoming podcast. She's built a terrific online marketing business. She's helped entrepreneurs refine their paid ad and launch strategies. She's created a podcast and co-hosted it with over 900,000 downloads. But more important, she's a curious explorer and a recovering perfectionist. She's traveled to more than 60 countries on 6 continents, been cage diving with great white sharks, camped in the Serengeti, and motorbiked across Europe. Welcome, Phoebe. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this since I knew you were starting your podcast, so thanks for having me.
Well, I've been looking forward to it because I think you're a great person, and I think you can teach my guests a lot about living life.
Thank you.
Can you tell me your story?
Yeah, so I like to talk about different seasons of life and business and seasons of purpose. And when I look at my life, I've had several seasons that I think could be of interest to people, especially even as you're reading my bio. I actually like hearing that because I forget that there are pieces of my life that I even forget about. So to start off, I'm one of 6 kids, and my journey really started, if we go all the way back there, is really in athletics. And so I kind of struggled to find my place in my family because I am it's kind of thrown into a family of high performers, extremely smart, very successful people. And so when I tried to figure out where I fit in, the last spot available really was in athletics. So that I dedicated my entire childhood up into college really to athletics. So I was a college Division I college soccer player. And once I got there, just kind of realized that this, I achieved my childhood dream. All the things that I thought I wanted had unfolded for me. And why was I not having this happiness and this real feeling of fulfillment that I was searching for? So I quit soccer and immediately jumped into this entrepreneurial time in my life. So I became a Mary Kay consultant, thrived in that, really loved it. And at that point, I had changed my college major to business because I thought, you know what, if I can sell makeup, I can sell anything. And I just saw the transformation that people were having when it wasn't actually about the makeup. It was about how I made people feel. And from there, this entrepreneurial spirit, this kind of adventure and curiosity brought me overseas. So like you said, I've traveled to, I think I'm at 64 countries now, and just devoted about 7 years to living overseas and traveling as much as I could. And that was really a priority for me at that time. And then now coming back to the US only about 3 years ago, have I put down that overseas living for a minute. Who knows when I'll pick that back up, but come back to, I was living in San Francisco, and at the same time, over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been building my online business, as you alluded to in my bio, and have just been excited to travel. And I love life, and I have this curiosity that I think makes me an interesting friend and a good friend. So that leads us up to where we are now. And I'm moving to Austin, so I'm excited to be near you in the coming year. And I'm excited for what's to come, for the new adventures that are in store for me in the upcoming future.
I'm excited about you coming to Austin too, because I think we're going to have a great time.
We are.
One of the things that always interests me when I talk to you, I met you at the New Media Summit in Austin last September. And it was very interesting how you and I met, because the event was over and we were both walking out and we bumped into each other. And I think I said to you, I really wanted to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And it was funny how we bumped into each other and we started this conversation and we really, really connected. And which is, kind of the way that things always work out for me, is I bump into people and I start talking and we connect and we start have this heartfelt conversation. And I learned so much about you in 15 or 20 minutes that we talked. And one of the things that really, really drew me to you is that your sense of adventure and your fearlessness. Can you explain to me what expectations and epiphanies you've had that have brought you to this fearless sense of adventure? Because it's really strong in you.
It is. And thank you for saying that. And can I just say that in our conversation, I remember just being so locked into our conversation that people were asking questions and I had to go and take a picture or something. And I just remember being like, yep, okay. And I have to go right back because I was just so enveloped in what we were talking about. So I appreciate that had an impact on you as well. And then as far as the fearlessness and the adventurous spirit, I think, or actually I know where that came from. I think it's been in me for probably longer than I can remember, but the defining moment for me was when I was 18. I went to, I started playing soccer in college and this was my life and my dream and everything was working out perfectly. And in a moment, over the course of about 6 weeks, I found out that my dad was sick and then he passed away. And it was a moment for me that I can go back to very quickly because it was one of these, all my expectations of how my life should be were shattered in a moment. And everything that I had known now was just on the floor. And so in that moment, I distinctly remember saying to myself and writing in my journal, do what you want and do it now. And that has been a mantra of mine because I lost my dad too soon. And did he accomplish all the things in his life that he wanted to? I like to think yes. And I just knew that I wanted to live up to that standard of living, to really play full out in my life and play full out in my business and helping people and having an impact the way that he did. The church, I don't actually think I've talked about this publicly, but I remember the church being packed with people and people coming up to me saying, your dad was my best friend. And I didn't even know these people. And so I knew in my life, I wanted to have that kind of impact that he had made in so many different lives and touched so many different people in ways that I wasn't even aware of. So that was really the start of my adventurous spirit. And that just brought me, as I said, overseas and studying abroad 3 times and just getting really curious about people and knowing people and actually knowing their story. Because for me, I was on paper a pretty successful 18-year-old at that time. I had, not that many people get to play Division I sports and I was in this bubble, but what was happening behind the scenes was just a big mess and I was crumbling and I didn't want anyone to see it. So I had this facade of being really strong and being really, being able to take care of everybody else when, as I said, inside and behind the scenes and, in my room, I was just an absolute disaster and I was unraveling really, really quickly.
That, one of the things that comes to mind for me is the commonality that you and I have mm-hmm. and the bond that we have because, me having lost my wife to ovarian cancer, you having lost your father, there's something about loss that really ingrains in us the need to live a stronger, more purposeful life now. It brings this now, like there's no tomorrow, because we realize that life is such a fragile line that we have, and it can be taken from us at any moment. Once you learn that, and I've noticed this in my travels around the world, when I was in Croatia. The people that I spoke to there, having lived through the war in 1990 there, they had the same feeling that you and I have about living for the now. And that's important for people to realize, that living now is more important than what your past has done. You can't change. I always say this, you can't change your past. You really can't go back and change it. And you can't control the future. So live for now. And that makes all the difference, because everything else becomes frivolous. I mean, it really has not much meaning. And I don't want to take away from the events that happened in our past, but truly, when you think about it, the now is what really counts to each and every one of us. And that's the important thing. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I completely agree. And one of the things that I stress so frequently in my business and with my friends and family is that this importance of the now, and how I want to, what I call kind of intercept people before they hit catastrophe, because that catastrophe could be an illness, someone dying, you lose all your money, something really severe, and it doesn't have to be. And if we're just constantly reminded, and that's not to live on the edge of doom and gloom, but it's also to constantly be reminded how lucky we are right now to be healthy, to have people who love us in our lives. And another practice that I've put into place is, and I encourage everyone that's listening to take stock of the important people in your life and take a moment to interview those people. Because, this is something I speak about a lot, is that there are so many things I wish I could ask my dad, and I didn't have that chance because I was 18 and I didn't care at the time. And now, just a couple months ago, I went and I interviewed my granddad, and I'm planning to interview my mom, because there's so much goodness and so much richness in the conversation that you could have with somebody that you love and care about, to actually hear the full story. And that just brings you back, as you said, to the now, to the present, to who they are. And there's so much power and so much fulfillment in that for me, to remind people that where we are right now is always changing. And I like that you can't control the future, and the past, for me, the past doesn't dictate the future, but the past patterns can show you what your future, your unchanged future, looks like if you do nothing. And that is something that is just, I get really worked up about that, because there's so many people I think that are living asleep, asleep at the wheel. And there's so many things that that people can do to create even just a better conversation, like we're having today, which is, the highlight of my day. And I've been so excited for this conversation. And that for me is enough to be like, yep, did I do something today that I think will benefit a lot of people? Yeah, of course, because I had a great conversation, right? And one person after one person.
Just bringing that up, I just flew back from New York on Friday, and I was sitting on the airplane with a girl from Austin that had just been in New York making a presentation on software that she developed. Her name was Ari, and originally from California, very bright young girl, reminded me of you in a lot of ways. And her and I started, of course, if you sat next to me on an airplane, you're going to have a conversation with me. I don't care if you're sleeping or not, you're going to hear me. And we got to talking, and she had said to me, she said, I think God meant for me to sit next to you today because you've taught me so much. And it brought goosebumps to me, because I thought, Ari, that you're correct about that. God did put me in this spot, and I'm glad that you learned something. I said, but I want you to think about this. How many people are sitting on this airplane next to somebody, have no clue, are fearful of even opening their mouth to them and finding out about them? I know everything about Ari. I know she's getting married. I know how she got from California to Austin. I knew what she does for work, only because I make the effort to go out of my way to talk to people and learn about them. And I don't do it because I'm a nosy guy. I do it because I genuinely care about where they're at, what they're doing, and I want them to know that. My point is, if we don't make the effort, then it will never happen. And I want people to know, to break out of this fear and start learning about each other, because once you learn about somebody, you will find ways to connect with them, and one word out of your mouth may change their life for the better or make their day brighter, put a smile on their face. And that's what is, to me, the most important thing about living. It's about sharing our events and sharing the things that have happened to us, and sharing the tears and all that. And that's the connection that we have. And, that's the connection you and I have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've shared tears, we've shared stories and all that, but it isn't unique to us unless we choose not to share it with others. Any thoughts on your part on that?
Yeah. So one of the things that really resonates with me is just that I've identified myself as somebody who does that. I go out to meet people, to really find out about people. And some people think it's nosy. I just, again, very similar. I could have used your exact same words. I just genuinely care about people and where they are and who they are and what's going on in their life. And so I think it's putting on that, or just kind of claiming that for myself, that is actually a part of who I am, a big part of who I am. And I also have to go first. And I think that vulnerability, that initiation, even if we're not going to jump into a super deep conversation, but I am going to bump into, if I bump into you at a coffee shop, I'm probably going to say something, and spark up a conversation. So I think that is something that people shy away from, is this idea that you have to go first. And even if you put yourself out there, and how many conversations are we missing because we haven't opened our eyes? And I distinctly remember a thought that came through my head. I was walking through the streets in Edinburgh, and I just thought to myself, there are so many people that have their headphones in that are looking at the ground, and nobody is looking at anyone. No one's having a conversation. It was kind of a cold day. And I just thought to myself, if something serious happened, let's say, I know in Scotland they're not having earthquakes, but let's say an earthquake happened, or, a terrorist something, which is morbid to think about. But if that happened, all these people around me, we would instantly have to care about each other. We would instantly be the only other person for the people around us. And I think about that a lot, on planes, if I'm in a coffee shop in San Francisco with the earthquakes. It's always that thought of, why are we waiting until this catastrophe? Why are we waiting until somebody forces us to step forward and to have a conversation, to actually have that conversation? Why are we not bonding and just collaborating or connecting or, conversing with the people around us? It doesn't have to be this huge, big thing to force us to do it. Why are we not just taking the initiative and going first on our own?
Events seem to be the thing that brings people together. It just is. Major events like that happen. I was thinking about the brotherhood that I have with my fellow Marines when I was serving in Vietnam. We come from so many diverse cultures and educational backgrounds and all that. But when you're in a war zone and in combat, all that goes away. Everything goes away except taking care of each other, having each other's back. And you're right. Why can't we do that in every day? Why can't we throw out all of the things that separate us and bring together the thing that joins us, which is our humanity, our caring for each other? And that is the sad thing about our culture and the culture of the world right now, is there's so much division in it. And it hurts, it really hurts me, because I think that we have far more commonality in humanity than we do divisions. We just choose, quite often, because of media, because of preconceived ideas of this separation. I don't like it, because the only way we're going to make a better world is by coming together. Separation will never create an atmosphere of growth and realizing our potential that we have as human beings.
Completely. One of the things that I look at a lot is how, is this disconnection, but it's also the other side to the coin, which is just how social media isn't, things like social media and things like these meetup groups that I used to do in San Francisco quite often was just bringing people together. And I think there is this false sense of community when there's an online group, because everyone's part of, in my Facebook group, I'll get a notification that someone wants to join my group, and I look and they're part of 120 other groups. And I just think to myself, this person can't possibly be really present in my group. And not that that's a huge, strike or anything, but it does make me think a little bit about how often or how much I'm really devoting to my own communities, to the people that I love, or is my attention spread across and diluted, really I'm becoming diluted in my own presence to the people who matter the most to me. And how do we do that? And so that's always a conversation that I'm looking to initiate, because I want people in my orbit to have 100% of me whenever, whether I'm there or not, and know that there is nothing too big, too scary, too far of a distance for me to actually be there. I'm always a phone call away. I'm always a plane ride away. And for me, that's just how I operate in life. But that's been something I had to shed pretty much towards the end of my 20s to really think about who matters to me. It isn't about quantity, it's all about quality. And I know that that's something that I really admire about you, Art, is just the way that you are fully present. And that when we were even speaking in that room, in the ballroom, there are people and loud things happening, but it just felt we were totally locked into our conversation. And I felt like the only person in the room. And I felt like we were the only people in the room having that conversation. And that's something I so value in a friend, in a peer, and am just really grateful that you have that ability.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you much. But that also is just how I am. But I wanted to address something about social media that you brought up, about people joining a lot of groups. And because I'm a person who is in a lot of groups, but yet, what it means for me is because I get to pick out certain individuals out of the group, because I know that I cannot connect with everybody in the group, but there are individuals in certain groups, and I have formed some really great relationships with some individuals out of the many groups I'm in. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. I think there's this this thought that you have to scream louder than everybody else. And, it obviously depends on the group, but I'm the same way in that I have specific groups for specific people, or, I'm in there for a specific reason, and so that I can show up fully. But I think it's when, I don't know, what this online marketing, wheel of just, that's what you have to do, is you jump into this group and just spam everybody with what you're doing and what you're up to and how you look better than everybody else. And that just creates more of, it creates more chaos.
Yeah,
and
clutter.
More noise.
I call it clutter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I happen to agree with you on that point. It's, for me, because I'm older and I have not grown up with social media. I'm 71 years old. And so the whole concept of social media, I have not been involved in the sense of it being ingrained in me. I've kind of been in the background watching it grow and got involved, I think probably when Facebook came out, in 2001 or 2 or 3, whatever it was, 4, and watched Facebook grow and the different things there. So, my perspective of it is from an older, more mature, I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, just from more of an outside looking in, because I don't use social media to tout my life or my skills or anything like that. I actually use it for what I think it is best designed for, is to create individual relationships. So, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling about that one because it's still shaking around.
Has anyone ever inspired you to discover a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled you? It is a magical experience, isn't it? Inspiration is indeed very powerful, yet it's often undermined. It can lift you from the ground to the sky in no time. Have you ever thought about returning the favor by inspiring the people around you? If you don't think you have it in you, we have good news for you. Art Costello's online course has everything you need to learn to supercharge yourself and shape your character into a powerful personality. Get ready to discover your strengths and unleash the creativity within. Don't believe it? Check it out yourself by signing up for this life-changing course at expectationacademy.com. That's expectationacademy.com.
In my brain.
No, it definitely makes sense. And I think you have a good perspective in that you've seen both sides with and without. And I can say I've seen both sides, but I was in college when Facebook came out. So I didn't have it growing up as a teenager, but, and I have nieces and nephews who are of that age. So getting to see them grow up with social media has been a really interesting, or sparked a lot of interesting conversations for us about comparing yourself, about touting all the great things you're doing and creating this facade. And I think that actually sets me up perfectly, and probably you up perfectly, to meet the people and then get to know them. And that is what, as you said, is what it's designed to do, is create connection and actually facilitate that connection. So I think you do have a really interesting perspective on what social media is and what it is not. And I think people can derive a lot of value from that.
Yeah, I've created some really, really close relationships with people that I would have never had the opportunity to meet had it not been for social media, and for, again, me reaching out to them or them reaching out to me. I wouldn't have been at the New Media Summit if it hadn't been for somebody reaching out and said, hey, this is something that you should go to, because you would fit in with this group. And that's how I got involved with New Media Summit, and going to that and meeting, golly, just so many great people, and all the podcasts that I've been on. And it started me on the idea of, I always had the idea of wanting to do a podcast because I thought I had a lot to share with people and could help people. And it put me over the edge of really deciding that this is what I wanted to do, because I don't have to travel as much. And, there's a lot of benefits in doing a podcast. So I've really, really enjoyed it. And, I consider it a blessing to have met you and so many other people there. I think that the relationship that you and I are developing is special, and I wouldn't have had it.
Right.
If it wasn't for social media getting me to that summit. So it's interesting how everything, the synergy of everything works. Let's talk about that, about life and how it brings it together, because you and I both know that this life is fragile. And again, if we don't step out and make the effort to meet people, it wouldn't happen. But once it does, what we do with it is what really, really makes the difference. I know you and I don't use it to promote or to do that. I mean, we have a genuine caring for people. I mean, anyone that knows you and I know that we care about people and we want to help as many people as we can.
I think it's really obvious I think the promotion there are different ways to do it. And it's interesting that my background is in marketing, and that I've been behind the scenes of big brands and people who have had really successful businesses, because I was the marketing machine behind the scenes. And it took me a couple years of watching that consistently, thinking to myself, well, it doesn't necessarily resonate with me and how I want to operate in business and life, but it resonates with me for that person, if that makes sense. And so the things that they were doing, I feel like I'm always talking about waging war on these blueprints and the 5-step formula for doing all these things. And the reason that I do that, and I do realize that it's helpful for some people, whether you're, talking about business or life. And so here is the 5-step formula, but what people don't realize is that everything is really, and that comes from a number of different things, but that everything is truly unique to who you are. And I think that the success that you're seeking in your business is really found in the clarity of your own identity. And so when you are able to step back and say, here's how I want to operate in my life. Okay, great. That's the first layer. Now, how do you want to operate in your business? What does that look like? And I think that genuine care really can come through. The passion can come through if you are fully aligned with who you are before you ever talk about the things that you're doing and the next project or promotion that you want to be promoting on social media. That can just come through really cohesive and coherently in a way that feels seamless. So people just want to be a part of your vision. They want to be a part of who you are. And I know that in the way that you operate our online is just with such grace and ease and simplicity that, and this magnetism that just draws people to you. And that's, ultimately what I'm looking for in my business to be doing with other people is how do we really extract the pieces of who you are and the way that you choose to live your life so that you can go and create a business that is a fun, easy, and honest expression of who you are, not the different elements of your business that you want to spotlight and the other parts that you want to keep hidden. So if you can create that in your life and you understand the pieces that go into your identity and how you operate in life, how you show up for your friends, for people that matter to you, how you continue to initiate great conversations, that once you figure that part out, the rest is the easy part. That's just creating a marketing funnel or some sort of, message that reflects who you are.
I think what you just said is probably the most powerful marketing education any listener could ever receive. What you just described so eloquently is what idealistically marketing should be about. And so well put, Phoebe. It just so well put. It almost brings me to tears when I hear you say that, because I have no marketing skills at all. I don't want to say I don't care about marketing, but it isn't why I'm on earth. I'm not on earth to be a marketer. I'm on earth to be Art Costello. I'm on earth to help others grow. And you put it so eloquently with how I wish so many other marketers did that, because and I know that there's so many marketers out there that look at it as funnel A, funnel this and funnel that and create this and create that. And they take the heart out of it. There's no heart in marketing anymore on the internet. It's all about dollars and cents. And there's more to life than dollars and cents, because when it's all said and done, when you have to say your final piece and stand before our maker, it has nothing to do with about dollars and cents. It's about how you've lived. And that's what matters more than anything else. And that's part of what we learn when we lose loved ones and we start prioritizing what's important in our lives. And yeah, we all need to make money and we all need to be able to survive. But the house that I live in is 2,000 square foot. I've lived in a 6,000 square foot house on 10 acres. Mm-hmm. How I lived was no different in that house than I live in this house. I just had more, I had more. And it comes and goes. Money comes and goes. But what you have in your heart and soul and your existence is really what the measure of you really becomes in the eyes of everybody. Some people admire people who have millions and millions of dollars and do all these incredible things. But I also admire the people that have very little and do so much. There's so many people that have so little, but yet they go out and share their lives every day, feeding other homeless people and creating good deeds in this world, volunteering at hospitals, but a lot of times they're not given the credit or looked up to the way that we really should. Those should be the people that we honor, because they really don't do it for the bucks. They do it for the goodness in their hearts and wanting to share and help somebody else.
I just wanted to share one thing that just came up as you were saying that. Is I had a really, I remember it being a real turning point in my life. I was 29 and a half and nearing 30, and just having this breakdown that I was not going to be a millionaire at 30. And I remember exactly where I was. I was living in Berlin at the time. And one of my friends said to me, he goes, well, you've got 6 months to make $1 million. How does that feel? And I just thought, oh my God, like there was just this heaviness about everything that I was doing. And I was just getting really down on myself. And he goes, right, well, how would your life change if you had $1 million right now, if I just handed you $1 million? And I sat with that for a couple minutes, and I was like, well, I mean, I'd fly first class. And he goes, okay, great. What else? I was like, well, I would have maybe 2 homes or 3 homes. I don't know. And he goes, okay, what else? And I couldn't really, at that time, I was like, well, what is he getting at? And he goes, Phoebe, you would still buy the same, $14 jeans and wear them for $10 or for 10 years, that you have forever. You would still buy, you would still be hunting in the bargain barrels for things. You would still be doing all these same things, but that's because that doesn't matter to you. And if you look at all these things that I'm talking, it's like, I just want the experience. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I have been chasing this dream of being a millionaire when actually I already am. I already feel that. And all the things that I want or wanted at the time, I already had. I would, as we or as you mentioned earlier, I had already camped in the Serengeti and gone shark diving and, traveled and done all this stuff without being a millionaire. So I was living in a millionaire's body, just not accepting the fact that I didn't need $1 million to get all those things and to really, I hadn't really felt that. And in that moment at 29 and a half, I was like, wow, I feel great. And so as 30 approached, I just thought, I have the millionaire feeling. And to me, that was enough.
What I find interesting is I wonder, when you were saying that, I was wondering if you were a millionaire and doing those same things, what your perception and perspective would be on life. Would it be the same? Or was it different because you weren't a millionaire and you were experiencing all this traveling and meeting these people? I think it would have been different.
Because you wouldn't be engaging with the same people. Is that what you mean?
I think engaging with the same people, but even more so, your perspective, I think, because I've had money and I've not had money. I think that my perspective and perception changed when I didn't have money. And I don't mean that in a trivial way. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but when I had money, the way I did things, I think, were different. The way I traveled, of course, the way you travel makes a big difference. If you fly first class versus business, it's just different. There's just different perspective when you have money and don't have money. And actually, I enjoy it more not having money. I think it brings me closer to earth. I think it made me feel a little bit more secure in things and not as much as a challenge. And I love the challenge of living. I actually thrive on the challenge of living versus being comfortable in living. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm very much the same. And I talk about, or just the way that my life has been, you said it was this fearlessness. And I think it was putting myself in the way, right? Putting myself into things that actually did scare me and stepping into the unknown. And it's very much my personality to want to figure things out. And so I have a rule for myself that I've lived in a number of different places, and I always said, I will not leave until I have a 10-day itinerary of wherever it was that I was living. And people think that's really weird. And why 10 days? And I say, because anyone can make a 4 to 7 day itinerary, but you have to really know somewhere to make a 10-day itinerary. And so that I ended up staying in Berlin 3 extra months because I didn't feel like I could 100% create that 10-day itinerary. I just left San Francisco feeling really confident in the 10-day itinerary. And the reason for that is because all the places I've moved, let me make sure. Yep, all the places I've moved since college, so my early 20s, and actually even in college, I moved not knowing anybody. And that is, for me, that's not something new. That's just something exciting. And that's the adventure element. So whereas you say the challenge of living, I'm like the adventure of living, what does that feel like? And what does it feel like to land somewhere where you don't know anybody? And what a cool opportunity I had and continue to have in all these places that it's almost like a reinvention. Who do I really want to step into today? And that feels so exciting. Even as I look forward to Austin, it's like really stepping into who I am. And people don't know me from anybody. And that's so exciting. And I love that. I love the element of the unknown. I love the adventure of what it is to be alive, to really thrive in your life, in your relationships, in your health. What does that mean to you specifically? And so for me, it's that piece of how can I figure this out? And as soon as it's that comfort level, which I could go off on a whole nother tangent about people talk about your comfort zone. Well, I think it should be called your discomfort zone. Because why would you want to step outside of it if it was so comfortable? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so I get these, it's almost like people talk about the travel bug or the itch to travel. And that's just a comfort thing for me. When I start to feel too comfortable, I want to break out and challenge myself and do something different and, go and have a new conversation that I've never had before and start as a beginner in some ways. And that's a big, that's challenging for me, for my ego, for all of these things, to go from a podcast where I had almost 1 million downloads to 0 because I knew that I wanted to do something different is, I think, the way that I'm really proud of the fact that I've chosen to live my life in that way.
It's one of the things that I love about you. I mean, is that, but the thing that came to mind for me is one of the things I teach people is how to expect the unexpected, how you do that. And I think that when we live in this arena of confinement that we kind of live in nowadays, where everything has to be structured and figured out, before we ever do it, is not conducive to expecting the unexpected. And that's why it throws people off so much when something unexpected happens. I learned it in Vietnam, because you never knew what was going to happen next. And so you have to become very aware of the unexpected. And it was one of the lessons I learned in Vietnam. So, it's we can talk about that another time.
Mm-hmm.
We're nearing the end of our time together. And of course, I love it and enjoy you immensely. Can't wait for you to come to Austin. Can you tell us where we can get a hold of you? What's coming up? What's in your future? What your plans are, or if there is no plans? But can you kind of end it with what you want the audience to know?
Absolutely. Well, I would say I am very accessible online. I think that's something that is really important to me, is to be engaging with people, right? Not just putting out content and hoping someone likes it. I really want to get in there and have a conversation. So you can find me all over the internet. Really, the primary places are my podcasts, as you mentioned. It's called Unbecoming, and if you want to listen to it, you can go to unbecomingpodcast.com/iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify. That's pretty much the main podcasting platforms that I am present on. And then I'm always on Instagram. I love Instagram stories. I love to share my life with people that care, people that resonate with what I'm talking about. And so that's Instagram.com/Phoebe Mroczek. And I'm sure that will be spelled out somewhere here because that is not an easy name. And then on Facebook. So same thing, Facebook.com/Phoebe Mroczek 1. And what is in the pipeline for me is I love in-person events. That's a big one. The move to Austin my intention for it is to really cultivate a community that I feel I can truly step into and be myself and have that be an expression and be able to feel fully expressed. So getting to Austin, in-person events, international events, which is really exciting, a potential road trip to go and meet some new people coming in the summer, I believe. So I'm still making plans for that. But really the focus is, coaching people that are in a transitional phase that want to kind of step forward and do great things in their life and in their business. And that coupled with just living a great life, a fun, exciting, adventurous, ease-filled life, that is really what I'm about. So that is kind of what I'm up to in the next couple months. And that could always change. I definitely give myself permission to change my mind a lot. And I do that. I take that liberty very to heart quite frequently.
Well, Phoebe, thank you for being with us today. And I really look forward to doing this again. And I know we will soon. And I think that we have a lot of great things coming together. And when you come to Austin, we're going to do a lot of exploring, and we'll see what the plan works out for, what we can expect from the unexpected in Austin, Texas.
I love it.
Again, thank you. And I'm always here for you, and I'm always here for my guests, the same as you are for yours and the audience. And it's been a pleasure. And I thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Phoebe.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for who you are in my life. I just am so grateful that we did have that conversation, that we have continued to connect and to have these really powerful conversations. I'm so grateful for the way that you show up. You talked about for your audience, but for people who aren't aware of the way that you show up for other people, I can fully attest to the fact that, your presence and your generosity and the way that you really take time out of your really busy schedule to make people feel like they matter is something that I don't see very often. And I'm so grateful to you. So I'm excited for your show. I'm excited to get to Austin, and I'm just really grateful and honored to be here. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and thank you for those kind words. And I think it's why we connect so well, is because we do care about each other so deeply. I mean, we really do. You're important to me. So, and I'm grateful that you're in my life also.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Don't know which direction you want your life to take? Are you sinking deep down into the pit of uncertainties day by day? So, what's the secret to leading a happy, satisfied life? It's taking matters into your own hands. But what if the matters in question are a total blur? Art Costello's Expectation Academy course aims to tell you exactly how you can get some clarity in your life. This course can be your savior on your journey to reinventing yourself. While you certainly can't plan your whole future ahead, you can definitely control twists and turns your life takes. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for this course now at expectationacademy.com. Get a chance to broaden your horizons and add meaning to your life. That's expectationacademy.com. Thanks for listening to the show. Drop us your comments and questions with what you want answered on the show. You can subscribe on iTunes and Binge Network. You can also get more information on the website, expectationtherapy.com.